Welcome to Demystifying the Creative Economy. I'm your host, Asher James, and I'm here to deliver to you interviews with creative industry leaders that focus less on the what they do, but rather more on the impact that their endeavors have had on our local economies and local cultures. In this episode, we get to chat with Kevin of Story North Productions and Sam of Art by SJ Nielsen about their upcoming documentary on painting the national parks with watercolors. Kevin Jacobson is one half of the husband and wife duo that is Story North Productions. Kevin is an award-winning storyteller who has invested 20 years into television news business. Viewers in the Northland and beyond have trusted Kevin's ability to share compelling and integral stories day in and day out, both as a news anchor and a news director. Today, he and his wife, Annie, have built a business that caters to the demand for high-quality visual storytelling. From corporate onboarding to tourism marketing, they help their clients elevate their story and make it come alive through video. Sam Nielsen is a watercolor artist and urban sketcher. She started this watercolor journey in 2014 when a college illustration class had a semester-long sketchbook project. After falling head over heels for the world of urban sketching, she did a sketch every day for a year. And now she often travels with a sketchbook in hand. Most of her work is inspired by Minnesota and her love of travel. Sam likes capturing the beautiful North Shore scenery, the personality of a sassy seagull, intriguing architecture, and of course, pine trees. Welcome to the show. How are we doing?
Good.
Great. Thanks for having us.
I'm happy you're here. Before we dive in deep, I think that after that introduction that I just had written up, which was basically me just copying it directly from your websites. If you didn't notice, I went to
I thought it sounded really good. You nailed it.
I just really want to hear you guys talk about how you describe yourselves. So briefly walk me through your own entrepreneurial journeys and what has brought you two together in this documentary. And then for those listening, we'll talk a little bit about what this documentary is in a little bit here. But first, I'll just kind of turn it over to you.
Yeah, I've been doing watercolor for several years, and I think over the years it's evolved quite a bit. When I first started my business, I was kind of bouncing all over the place with like different, you wouldn't recognize actually what I used to do then in comparison to now, and just over the years have grown into more what I want to be doing and figuring out what I love, and have branched out in a wide variety of ways. I still bring my sketchbook along a lot of places, but that has actually kind of become more of just my place of fun play, and have started developing all sorts of products and collaborating with other businesses. And
yeah, as for Story North, spent 20 years in the news business. Love the idea of being able to share stories with people. So many things happen in a day where people don't realize, and so to be able to help them understand what's going on in the world around them, give them that in a bite-sized package, if you were, was always appealing to me. And I've done that since I was 14, 15 years old, getting interested in TV news and the video business. At some point, there was a fire under me that said, let's do something different. Let's use those same skills. Let's try something different. And so Annie and I built up Story North Productions back in 21, left news, left KBJR, and we've been having a lot of fun ever since. And so a lot of the stuff we do is storytelling for businesses, corporations, nonprofits, still making sure that we're helping those brands spread their awareness, right? Getting the word out, whether it's a recruitment video, what they're doing in the community, same idea.
Love it. Sweet. So where's the intersection? How did you two come together, and how did this idea for the documentary come to be? And we can kind of transition that into what is the documentary and what are you hoping to accomplish together in this story?
Yeah, so I think my wife and I, Annie and I, have followed SJ's work for some time. Really appreciate what she does and how she captures this beautiful region. And one of my colleagues who will do some work with Story North Productions, Jeremy Nelson, had brought up one day, hey, do you know SJ? I saw you guys have interacted on social media. It'd be really cool maybe to do a documentary. Do you think she'd be interested? Next thing, we found ourselves at a coffee shop at 190 Coffee and talking about what would this look like, and the rest is history.
yeah, I always think it's interesting too, like looking back at, we've had interactions over the past several years, whether it's at art fairs or bonding over the fact that my husband is Danish.
And I'm Danish, so
there you go.
Points
just,
there.
Yep.
Just looking back and just seeing like the different ways like you connected and having no idea how you would be interacting and working together in the future. I always think that's, I don't know, always cool to reflect on. And yeah, I had no idea what I was getting into at that first coffee shop meeting, but
Either was
I'm
on.
glad it's happening.
Walk me through that conversation. What did that feel like? What like sort of passions or ideas came to the forefront, and how did the idea for the national parks come into play?
That's a great question. I think so. When we sat down, Jeremy's done a lot of documentary work over the years. I've done more, corporate nonprofit stuff. So different lanes, but same idea. And so I'm just like, this is an adventure for me too. I'm going to learn as well. And it may not be the conventional way of doing a documentary. But we got talking and we had a good conversation about, obviously we want to do a documentary about SJ, about her work. But is there anything else? What else do you want to do that you haven't already done? And so you answered.
I think that's something that I appreciated too. Like when I first got an Instagram message from him, just kind of briefly asking like, we have this idea, do you want to meet for coffee? And didn't have any idea what they had in mind. And in the best way, I walked away from that meeting of just, kind of on fire. I think I called Andreas right away and said, you have no idea what? I thought it was just like hey, do you want to do this short video thing, whatever. And I think I was most excited about Kevin and Jeremy jumping on just, I guess, like my dream. And that's not to lessen any of my other previous experiences, but to have something that is a little bit separate from strictly sharing just like my story into my business. That's a huge part of it, but to tackle something different. And I think just the uniqueness too of, I've told them many times, just the importance for me of just being able to show people like the very natural and authentic things that happen in business and pursuing goals and dreams, and being able to do that together with them versus having something already wrapped up in a pretty bow, finished, complete. I think just because I know so many of my just my customer base or people that have found maybe some inspiration from kind of my journey, I think will appreciate just the realness of like, this is what it's like to pursue something, and there might be bumps in the road and we'll see where we get.
It's a really good point. The experience itself also lending to a takeaway for people who are coming across this. And I think what's really nice with this documentary, which is in its early stages right now in the beginning of 2024, but to be able to have somebody like SJ who, yes, we want to do something about her, but to have her actively involved pretty much in every step of the way too, helping us find out ways and how to get the documentary out there, or launching a Kickstarter, that kind of stuff. You've had a lot of great ideas, and we wouldn't have done a lot of these things had it not been for our subject. So it's really fascinating to be a part of that.
Yeah. So would it be safe to say that we're in pre-production right now?
Yeah, I think production, we've already filmed a couple things here and there, just knowing that we've had some events where you've been out that we definitely want to capture. And when we first posted just a simple picture of Jeremy out filming SJ at the Winter Village at the deck, the response, I never imagined that response that we get. And so we got together quickly and agreed that we have to come up with some sort of sizzle reel or a little trailer just to show people what we're looking to do and how we want to do it. And so we got together pretty quickly and got that out in early December. And the reaction was fantastic.
Yeah. I feel like I don't even have anything to add, because I think
what
I'm
was
still
the reaction?
Just like,
Bring me into that.
Just
what did
crazy,
you start to notice?
like excitement and positive, just everything. Yeah. I think it was just like, I don't know. I don't think it will ever get to a point where I get used to people just like standing behind you and getting excited for some like opportunities for you and feeling like they're just as much a part of the journey, and like what a blessing that is, And I don't know. Me personally, I always operated like I don't know where any project or idea or whatever is going to go. And I think I maybe hold loosely to the outcome too in a healthy way. And so I think just seeing a response like that was just overwhelming in a positive way.
And I think too, it just goes to show how loyal SJ's fans are. The people that we're talking about here are the ones who have bought her work or follow her on social media. And so that's been really cool to see that, and people coming out of the woodwork saying, "How can we help? Can we share this? How can we be a part of this?" Yeah. So yeah, it's been fascinating.
So Sam, I have a question. when I was reading your bio, I think it said that you graduated from UMD, correct? Or no.
Moorhead.
Moorhead.
Yes.
Okay, so Moorhead.
Yep, Minnesota State.
But you graduated in 2014?
So I actually started college as a music education major. Completed 3 years of that. My last semester of that, when I was having not a midlife crisis at that point, but some sort of crisis of what am I doing, I was jumping ship for my Wind Symphony course early to go take a painting class because I had a feeling that I was going to switch majors, but thought I should test something out first. So in 2014, I started watercolor. That's kind of when I first started, I think, some of my first art classes when I was officially an art ed degree. And then 2016 is when I started my business.
Okay.
And also when I graduated.
When did you move to Duluth during that time?
2016.
2016.
Yes.
Okay. The reason that I say that is because back to what Kevin was saying about you having a loyal fan base, like I think we've maybe crossed paths a couple times, maybe at a craft fair or something like that. But just to that point, the impact that I think that you have had on just Duluth's aesthetic and storytelling from a visual arts perspective is, in my opinion, why that behind the scenes photo at Duluth Winter Village went so crazy. Sure. Because when I think of a Duluth artist, and I'm not just buttering you up here, I mean this, like I do think SJ Nielsen. I think art by SJ Nielsen, right? Like the businesses you've worked with, the brands you've worked with, the shows that you've been to, the art that's up in restaurants and cafes and galleries around the area. So I think that that's really interesting to see how much people have responded to that and how much their support feeds back into your art and kind of like the interplay there. And this is all kind of manifesting now into this documentary, which is, I think, super exciting, right? Like chills, like just crying, you know. It's so cool. So where
don't cry.
I know, right? So where does that put you right now in what does that make you think of when it comes to creating this documentary as like an interaction and an interplay between the art and the people receiving that art? Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, it does.
Yeah. Because the documentary is a completely new way of connecting with the audience and bringing them into your process in a way that they haven't been able to see before, you know?
That just alone is so exciting to me of just being, I mean, we all know as entrepreneurs, like none of this would exist without the people that support us. I mean, I would still get all of the fulfillment I do out of painting, but I guess a huge part of, I guess, just my life motto, or what I strive to be my life motto, I'm not always perfect at this, is just like, how can I be of service? And I think over the years, I think in my business initially, I was maybe tempted to think like, what's a painting going to do for the world? Like, why do I get to sit in my home and do a painting? And as I've grown and matured and continue to grow, just realizing like that's not, my job is to show up to the craft and the skills I've been given and give that to the world, and the way it is used within the world is just out of my hands. And I think just being able to share maybe a little bit more intimately with all the people that have made this possible is just a gift. Being able to let people into that, I mean, I guess the true side of all of the different aspects of my story and business. And I don't know if that answered your question or if I just went on a whole.
No, it does. It does. And I think that I kind of want to pose the same question to Kevin.
Sure.
Because I think what we've been seeing in the last few years with a lot of short form reels and social media and personal branding, a lot of what people are interacting with the most online is not actually the content itself, the piece itself, the final product, i.e. the documentary. It's the behind the scenes and the journey of creating it. So I know like we have Jeremy in the studio right now taking behind the scenes. The photo of you at Duluth Winter Village was behind the scenes. Bring me into that kind of, it's a production in and of itself, really, that storytelling element of creating this thing. And I see it as a big part in the fundraising component of this project. So bring me into that process, the thought process, however intentional or accidental or fluid and ongoing, that behind the scenes, bringing the audience into the production has been going.
I'm actually really glad you brought that up, Asher. And I think it hasn't been a top of mind thing. It's just, that's how I've always done things naturally. Going back to news, anchoring, taking behind the scenes pictures at the anchor desk or out in the field. inviting people into what we're doing, to be a part of the process, to see what it's like. It's exciting. It's fun. Why should we show off what we're doing? I feel like too often we see a lot of projects that are kept, secret, or, they wait until the very last minute. Why not just be open about it?
Yeah.
Like, let's invite everybody
people
in.
Yeah.
And that's what SJ does with her work all the time. Social media reels where you show people how you're painting, and from the beginning to the end. Let's make that part of the experience. And that could be more fun maybe than the documentary itself. I don't think so, but there's part of it there too, where it's like, let's just make this an experience. And I love experiences.
Yeah.
And that's just another way we can get the word out.
And the interweaving too of like just as you were talking about, just like it's the stories of the people helping make this possible, the story of the people viewing it. Like, again, you want people to view it. Kevin's story, Jeremy, like just seeing everything kind of, just that collaboration. I don't know if I've collaborated with other businesses and stuff before, but there's never been something where it's like I get to have firsthand experience at watching someone else's skill and craft, and all of our strengths are playing together. I just think it's really beautiful.
And I don't know, we'd be here now with so much out there if it weren't, again, for the initial reaction from people, right?
Sure,
when we posted that one picture, but I think it goes back to give people what they want.
100%. Give the people what they want.
Yep.
Because they're a part of it. Like, there's that old saying that if art is in a room and there's no human being in that room, is it art, right? So I think that bringing the audience in, especially with the modern tools that we're able to do that, the way that we're able to bring them into the production journey, I think is really exciting. So,
yeah, the tools are there. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of having that mindset to actually do it.
Right. The intentionality.
Yeah.
Right. So bring me into production. Where are we at? Where are we going? I know that working in the documentary world, you never really know what the story is until you actually get into the editor. And even if you do know like the outline, sometimes it can change along the way. So where are we at in the story? Without spoiling anything, obviously, where are we at in the production and the story, and what is the documentary consisting of right now as we speak in the middle of early stages
of production? Like I mentioned, we've filmed a couple of different scenes thus far. We've got a loose plan, I think is a safe way to put it. We know where we want this to go, but there are a lot of parts that have yet to be explored. And I think that's what makes this story exciting, is that we don't know if or when things will happen, but we're going to be there to document that, and that's part of the story. Yeah, so I think, again, early stages, but we're excited with what the reaction we've gotten so far. We have bits and pieces we can use, and we've had some pretty good outreach for not only helping us with the film, but also the actual things we want to do in the film.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Are you comfortable sharing some of those things that you want to do in the film, or are you going to keep those a little close to the chest right now?
SJ?
Yeah, no.
Totally up to you.
I'm fine.
I'm putting on like my Jimmy Kimmel hat.
Yeah, no.
Like pressing.
Yeah. Well, I think one big thing, like, just to be frank, is like seeking funding right now.
Absolutely.
Of just, like, right now we have a Kickstarter. There's other ways to do things too, but I think that'd be a huge boost forward, I think, in just the momentum. And then on my end, just from like the art aspect of like the documentary, the filming is the one half. And then it's also like the story of like figuring out how to get into a national park. And so on my end, the biggest piece right now is just like creating the work. I've reached out to just a few connections of kind of figuring out what I previously thought. I've had this dream for a few years, and I had this impression that getting into a national park was very difficult, was very mysterious about like how do you do that and whatever. And some of those things I've learned, the difficulty with it, I think, has to do with the fact that national parks are big. There's lots of artists that want to get into them, and the physical space within like gift shop, like there's only so much square footage, there's only so much room. So just kind of the right person at the right time is kind of the impression I'm getting, which on my end honestly feels hopeful. I've had so many things within my business of just like, I show up, I do the work, I put in the time, I share about it. And if it's meant to be, there's always some connection. So I feel like I have just hope and faith in that of down the road, if it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. And as far as actual progress forward right now, I I love just the Instagram community. They have always helped me out in so many ways, and a big way is providing reference photos. So I think I've got, at this point, probably 100 photos to choose from of different parks. And I'm starting with Yellowstone. We're going to see. I have some just, I guess, personal connection to that. And for me, it's not a thing of, I don't need it to be a big name park, but just I thought that's just going to be a fun place to start. I've actually been there, I've experienced it, and we'll just go down the list from there and see what happens.
What a perfect place to kick it off at, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're doing this, are you going out on location?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
That'd be awesome
That's
if at
part of
some
what the
point we
funding
could
could do.
travel, and even if there's something, I would love to be able to create products that are like wholesaled in a gift shop or whatever, but also there'd be a fun aspect of who knows if there could be some sort of collaboration where I'm doing something custom and we get to meet someone from the park and have those discussions and whatever. So I think that part is pretty open-ended, just depending on who we can connect with. And the other, go ahead.
I was going to say, just, obviously the goal here is highlighting SJ and her artwork, but also our region. And so extending that to, Yellowstone or wherever else we may hopefully end up, just to showcase, these beautiful areas.
Yeah.
Right. I love it. So let's see. What do you think that the impact is going to be? So another part of this show is not just talking about the what we do, but the impact that it may have on people, right? And not just the way that it may impact people emotionally, but economically, what sort of economic impacts is documentary work, and what sort of economic impacts can storytelling work through art and watercolors or, sketches, what does that impact look on a more micro scale? And that doesn't necessarily just have to mean Duluth, Minnesota. That could mean in the areas around Yellowstone, right? That could mean in all the other areas around where you may be traveling or maybe doing art as a part of this project. What do you think that those implications or economic impacts look like? And I kind of want you to maybe use your experience from your documentary work already and your experience from your pieces that you've created in the past. Anyway, period. Question has been asked.
I think twofold. I think one, and this may be the easy answer, but awareness of the region, show off the different parts of our area that SJ loves to paint and loves to go to. But then also the idea that we're talking about an entrepreneur who's an artist, and having that, providing that inspiration to others who may be there watching and thinking to themselves, my job's okay, but I have this passion that I think I could do really well. And I've been there. SJ's been there. And I think that joint, common theme there would be a big economic impact if somebody wants to start their own business. So, yeah.
And just I can echo all of that. And then just the trickle effect too of just, I've had experiences many times where someone will reach out and say they started a creative business, and what sparked that, or I guess maybe sparked some of their confidence in pursuing that, was some of my work or story or encouragement or whatever. And so just really having no idea of that spread out into a wide variety of communities and regions and people. It really seems endless at that point.
Right. Oh, it's so exciting. So where do we go from here? What are you working on? What projects do you have coming up? And what kind of support and need do you have to keep this production going? And how can people get involved and interact on a monetary scale, on a involvement, whatever that looks like,
Yeah, so I think obviously for any kind of project like this, financial support is always important. Right now, the Kickstarter we have going really is focused on helping non-labor costs with the film. So travel, materials that we may need along the way. And then once that's taken care of, we'd love to be able to pay the producer, the director, who are doing the work for this. So that's really one of the big next steps, is working on that.
The classic indie project.
Absolutely. And, and I think both Jeremy and I have the goal in mind that we want to do this come hell or high water, and so I think we're going to figure out a way to make it work. And we'll keep asking. I think there's a lot of potential for partnerships with tourism bureaus, businesses, that make products that SJ uses on a daily basis really seek out help and support from them, people sharing this with their followers, to let them know that this is what we're doing. And so, the Kickstarter is a very small portion of what we're doing. We're applying for grants as well, because that's what you do. And then obviously, asking some of those different entities too for help. Yeah.
Anything to add to that, or?
I think that's probably,
I think
just
Kevin nailed it.
All of the above.
Yeah, very cool. Before we wrap the show up, I just want to give you guys an opportunity. Is there anything that we didn't talk about in the show so far that you want to bring to light about the documentary, about your work in general, about your art? I just kind of want to open the floor up to you.
Yeah, I think connecting some of the pieces we talked about, this is the first time that I'm helping produce a documentary. It's humbling. You're vulnerable, asking for money to do what you like to do. So this is different, and it's a learning experience, of course. But it's also cool to see people step forward to help and respond.
Yeah, and I think too, I've lost track of the number of times I've either told Kevin and Jeremy or my husband of just like, it's such a different type of project in the sense that normally I'm sharing like a product that people can purchase and bring into their home or whatever. And so basically feeling like you're asking people to invest in my story and the story that they want to tell, and just all of that kind of stuff is it can feel kind of vulnerable, but then on the same side, just like you said, of humbling and just good to see people showing up, and then also just like remembering what's important of there's many avenues to do this, and just keeping the focus where it should be versus interiorly. I think that just on a personal level, it can be easy. I'm a flawed human being still working on flawed human being things, and just remembering like the ego is not involved here. And if it starts to show up, kick it out, because it's always got to be about something bigger than that. So I think that's just been another of many learning experiences I've had about that in my life. And
that's what we love about SJ. She's a great human being.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, I love it. How can folks get connected with you? I'm going to put the link to the Kickstarter in the show notes. Perfect. So for anyone that wants to be a part of it, any kind of donation is welcomed, right? Yep. Whether it's $5, $10, $100,
anything.
$1,000, whatever it is.
Yes, we like that. Or share it. Or just share it with your friends.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think that's a big thing that a lot of folks that don't work in small business and entrepreneurship don't understand, is that the click of that like button, the click of that share, a comment saying that, hey, I love what you're doing here, like that impact is real and huge. So even if you aren't able to donate, would love to see you showing up and flooding both Kevin and SJ's social media feeds with all the love and comments that you can. How can people do that? Bring us into your world. What kind of websites can they visit? Social media? What do you think people can connect with you?
Yeah, so if they go to my website, artbysjnielsen.com, there's a big banner up top, and then just slightly below there's a video and link to the Kickstarter. Otherwise, they can find me on Instagram, SJ_Nielsen. Got everything linked in there for people, and then also through either of our pages can find some of the different teasers and the sizzle reel and stuff like that. If they aren't able to contribute financially, they can share it with the link.
And storynorthproductions.com/watercolors has sort of an overview of the documentary, the sizzle reel, and a contact page for us as well.
Fantastic. And if we want to follow your work and other things you have going on, how can we find you?
Story North Productions on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for being on the show today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
This was great. We said the exact same thing.
You've been listening to the Demystifying the Creative Economy podcast with Asher James. If you found value and actionable ideas for yourself and your biz, please leave us a review and let us know what you'll be implementing into your business. Also, send this to a friend who you think could also find value in this conversation we had here today. You can find more information on our guests today in the show notes and on our website. Don't forget to subscribe to our show, and we'll see you right back here next week when we continue to demystify the creative economy. Our producer and host is me, Asher James. Our showrunner is Dr. Aparna Khatri of the Cultural Entrepreneurship Program at the University of Minnesota Duluth. We are funded and supported by the University of Minnesota Duluth. Thanks for listening.